Mario Kart Wii is one of the most popular games in the Mario Kart series. Even today, 16 years after its release, it still boasts a competitive online multiplayer community, as well as a solo time trial scene where players focus on completing track races as fast as possible. So, is it easy to get a time trial world record? Unfortunately, no. Players in the Mario Kart Wii community are seriously devoted, and tracks have had over a decade of optimization applied to them. Sure, new strategies and techniques are constantly being discovered on some of the more broken, glitchable tracks, but how do you beat the world record on a basic track where the driving is already as clean as possible? The answer is simple. You just need more speed. This is how I broke a Mario Kart world record by getting stuck in the ground. Luigi Circuit, the first track in the first cup. It's pretty standard, a few turns, a ramp, and a banked curve at the end with some boost panels. All the grass and yellow sand is off-road, which slows you down heavily. You can use the boost panels at the last turn to give you off-road immunity for 1 second, but they're too far away to let you cross all of it. Luckily, the developers were nice enough to give you 3 mushroom boosts for every time trial attempt, which you can use at any moment, providing 1.5 seconds of speed boost each. Now, time trial world records are split into 2 major categories. In a 3-lap, the goal is to complete the entire race as fast as possible. In a fast lap, or flap for short, the focus is to complete just any 1 lap of a race as fast as possible. The game automatically tracks both, and so does the community with the use of websites and spreadsheets. For flaps, it's faster to use all 3 mushroom boosts on the same lap. It doesn't matter which lap you choose to perform your flap on. A flap done on lap 1 isn't treated any differently to a flap done on lap 2 or lap 3, but it is slower. There are 2 main reasons why. You start the race slightly behind the finish line, and although your vehicle isn't a boost at the start, you have to spend about half a second accelerating from 0 all the way up to high speed. Let's take a look at American player Casey's former flap world record, along with British player Luke's current world record. Casey's run uses Funky Kong on the spear, which is the fastest character and bike combination in the game. Unlike karts, bikes possess the ability to wheelie, supplying a speed boost for 3 seconds. The spear does have poor drift, but Luigi Circuit has no tight turns, so that works out well. By doing your flap on lap 2 or 3, you can also charge a mini turbo at the end of the previous lap by holding the drift button and releasing it right when you cross the line. Casey does this in his run. Releasing the boost at the start of lap 2 combined with a wheelie accelerates him up to 115.6 units per frame, and then back down again to the wheelie speed, 98.4. He uses his first 2 mushroom boosts to cut through some grassy off-road, and then the third one to cut through the sand at the end. .641. Pretty fast overall. He's at a speed of 98.4 for a large portion of the run, and the shrooms nearly take him up to the maximum possible speed of 120. In comparison, Luke's run uses the Flame Runner instead. The Flame Runner is used in tons of world records in the game due to its high speed and good drift. Luke uses his second mushroom boost to get to the trick ramp. That turn is where the Flame Runner normally loses time compared to the spear, so when the ramp is used, the Flame Runner is just as fast. With a time of 21.590, Luke's run is the current world record. The general premise of the 2 runs is that most of the laps are spent with speed in the mid-90s, with a few sections close to or at 120. The vehicles are just as good as each other. Unfortunately, given the limit of 3 mushroom boosts, we reach a dead end. We've cut the off-road And we've utilized the ramp. This is all you can do. But is it really? You might have noticed that the resolution of gameplay in this video is quite high compared to your average Wii. That's because I'm recording these runs using Dolphin emulator on my computer. Dolphin also makes it easy to add cosmetic modifications to the game, like the speedometer in the bottom corner. But its capabilities go far beyond that. With built-in tools called slowdown, save states, and frame advance, you can set rewind points, slow the game down as much as needed, and more, allowing you to have way more control over a race. When optimized to get the fastest possible time, these are called tool-assisted speedruns, or TASs for short. TASs aren't included on the same leaderboards as real-time world records achieved on console, but tools in Dolphin are invaluable for testing new ideas, strategies, and shortcuts, and some end up proving viable for not just TASs, but console world records too. TASs are well known for heavily utilizing external velocity exploits. Speed in this game consists of two components, internal and external velocity. Internal velocity refers to the type of speed that the vehicle attempts to drive at, similar to the way that a real car's speedometer measures how fast the wheels are spinning. External velocity, or EV for short, refers to speed gained from external forces, including things like gravity and bumps from other players. However, there are other clever ways to accumulate EV. Bikes generate a bit of sideways EV when they lean, and this can be exploited. Super grinding, found in 2014 by Black, and super hopping, found in 2022 by Monster, are two movement techniques that exploit EV. The problem is that they require humanly impossible inputs, and thus can only be executed with TAS tools. Super grinding requires you to hop and turn 30 times per second, and super hopping also requires very precise input changes to be of any use. Now, there is a humanly possible way to exploit EV, super sliding. You see, behind the scenes, vehicle models in Mario Kart Wii don't actually match their visible textures. Their models consist of multiple spheres, some of which are assigned to be the vehicle body, and others the wheels. Because the game only expects your wheels to be on the ground, some wacky stuff can happen when the vehicle body interacts with the ground instead. If you position your bike at the very edge of a thin, flat plane of ground with no walls nearby, then fall off momentarily and quickly snap the joystick in the direction of the track, you can wedge the ground between the bike's hitbox spheres and get stuck. It's not well known when this was first discovered, since the first instance of it was likely accidental. Super sliding works because you can continuously tap the joystick to lean and generate EV, and because the wheels aren't on the ground, the EV increases faster than it can dissipate. This isn't useful in practice though, because you can only travel in a straight line and the super slide is incredibly fragile. Changes in ground slope, hopping, wheeling, reversing, and slamming into walls will eject you from the super slide state, and you can't re-enter it without doing the setup from scratch. So it seems like external velocity exploits will only shine within the TAS realm. We need to dig deeper if we want to break the world record. Back in September 2016, Japanese player Cyan uploaded a compilation of tool-assisted clips to his YouTube channel, which included this hilarious super slide. But hold on, I just said before that super slides were extremely fragile. Well, one vehicle is an exception. The Wario bike. One of the worst bikes in the game stat-wise is able to drive almost completely freely whilst in this state, more than every other bike. We assume this is due to it having multiple vehicle body spheres at the back of its hitbox, stabilizing the bike while it's stuck in the ground. For some reason, the sheer potential of the Wario bike super slide went totally ignored for over 6 years. A few people were aware of its unique stability, but players struggled to find applications for it. It wasn't until Monster shared this Toad's Factory Taz video on the 2nd of May 2023 that super sliding would change Taz driving forever. The next day, he properly showcased the exploit on YouTube with 2 incredible flat Tazes on Luigi Circuit and Moonview Highway. Fast forward to today, and Taz viable super slides are faster on approximately 20 tracks. Wait a minute. Luigi Circuit? And he's at max speed for the entire race? Let's break down how Monster got this to work. The first requirement for a super slide, as I mentioned earlier, is access to the edge of a ground plane. But the edges of all the ground on Luigi Circuit are totally attached to vertical walls or invisible walls in every direction. No problem though, we can just go over the wall to access the edge. This is a glitch called wall clipping. Let me explain. There are a few conditions that need to be met to get a fast and high wall clip in most situations. You need 1. A parallel approach, 2. High speed and high bike pitch, and 3. To be in the air for at least 5 frames by the time you touch the wall. When you drive into a wall, your forward speed reduces to 0 if your approach is perpendicular, reduces partially with the diagonal approach, and doesn't reduce at all if your approach is parallel. Now, if you then wheelie into a wall, you'll bounce into the air due to your increased bike pitch, and the height of the bounce is also affected by your speed. The reason for condition number 3 lies within the game's code. I'll gloss over that, but just know that it's needed, otherwise your wall clips will get no height and look like this. To put all this simply, the reason wall clips go high and far is because you get the big bounce from the wall, but your speed stays high instead of immediately dropping. Monster's setup follows all of the conditions. He gets high bike pitch from the wheelies, speed from the mushroom, and airtime due to the change in ground slope. So when he drives parallel to the yellow wall and touches it, he gets enough height to fly over the wall and land on the seam between the very edge of the grass plane and the out of bounds abyss. It's worth noting that the texture of the yellow wall doesn't actually match its collision. The texture appears slanted, but the wall is straight. Solid walls only have collision on one side, which is why this super slide entry even works. He's able to barely stay on the grass without falling off because at least a fraction of the vehicle hitbox is touching it. And he doesn't pop back inside the track either because he keeps less than half of the vehicle from passing through the solid left side of the wall. From this point, Monster enters a super slide state by falling off the track for a split second and then turning the vehicle back towards it at just the right time. Once he's in, he drives along the track until the downhill part where he starts rapidly alternating the joystick left to commence EV build-up. Hang on. Landing inside a thin wall? Rapidly alternating the joystick? Does this all not sound too hard to be humanly viable? One day, I was messing around with a Wario Bike Super Slide flap with Taz Tools and Dolphin, and I noticed something interesting. Hopping before the Luigi Circuit finish line caused me to eject out of the ground, but hopping after I crossed the finish line let me start and hold a drift without ejecting. Upon closer inspection, I realized that the track is sloped upwards very slightly after the finish line. Okay, so it seems you can initiate drifts in a Wario Bike Super Slide provided you're driving uphill. After experimenting with holding a drift around the first turn, I saw that my EV was dropping, but I still had plenty left to take the turn without my speed diminishing too much. This really surprised me. I eventually lost speed, which was a shame, but wait, by holding my drift for so long, I now had a charged mini turbo ready to release. Mini turbo boosts increase your internal velocity, and during the boost I could lean left again to build up more EV. Would you look at that? I'd done the entire uphill of Luigi Circuit with no rapid inputs, and by the end of it my speed was still over 100. My EV had dropped to a measly 28, so I released the charge mini turbo and moved to the right of the road to give myself some space for joystick alternations to rebuild EV. Since the road is downhill from here, I couldn't begin another drift or else I'd eject out of the superslide. The EV building wasn't as efficient as Monster's Taz by any means, but hey, I was averaging a speed of about 105 down this slope compared to the 96 and 98 Luke and Casey reached in their respective flaps. I was back to full speed at the bottom of the downhill, so I used my 2 remaining mushrooms through the sand shortcut. 20.138. Luke's world record is a 21.590. Had I just found a humanly viable way to superslide on Luigi Circuit? Maybe. There were still some major roadblocks in the way. Is the difficult wall clip at the beginning even possible? How do I build speed to set up the flap entry without the precise inputs from Monster's Taz? What if I crumble due to nerves on the last turn of the flap and hit the green pipes? Let's get to work. I needed to solve the wall clip problem first, because if that wasn't humanly viable, then the whole plan might as well be ditched. Monster's wall clip setup is just too hard. The ground is sloped sideways, you need to cancel your wheelie midair to get parallel to the wall consistently, and you need to do some tough inputs after the wall clip to get the correct angle to land on the grass seam. To make matters worse, when airborne, you only have the ability to turn left and right for 20 frames, so there's just 1/3 of a second after leaving the ground to completely set your alignment for landing. You can't keep moving left and right the entire time. So I opened up a program called Lorenzi's KMP Editor. It's a really cool tool that allows you to eliminate visual textures and view the basic solid collision model of any track. I searched for any other potential wall clip location such that I had a straight runway to slow down on after landing on the seam. All I could find was this pole. But a setup there would be obscured by this bush and blocked by this billboard. It was my only shot though, so I had to at least give it a go in Dolphin with tools. This slight slope change in the grass was ideal for getting 5 frames of airtime. I tested tons of slightly different locations to clip from in the hopes that one of them would give me some fortune. I realised I could actually take advantage of the bush by using its leaves to guide my alignment. After many hours of minuscule adjustments, I miraculously found a semi-consistent way to time 2 boosts and do some wheelie inputs, which kept the bike pitched low enough to avoid the solid billboard and also gave me the airtime needed to clip. The next issue was building up speed before the flap. I found a super foolproof way to do this, which involved reversing and repeatedly nudging the stick to the left while closely following the curb around the bend. Bonking into this wall helped me transition from reversing to accelerating, and lo and behold, a consistent way to enter the flap at full speed without needing to alternate inputs 30 times a second like Monster. The ending strategy I had planned with the sand cut was fast, but honestly, I did not trust myself to do that without stuffing up from nerves. Luckily, I remembered from earlier that you could begin a drift in a super slide on uphills, and then this slope before the last turn caught my eye. Hopping too high up or too low down ejected me, but I found a sweet spot. My EV hardly depleted, and I remained at maximum speed for the majority of the turn. No worries about the angle for the final line either, because I could just eject here using a wheelie and then chain my 2 remaining mushroom boosts until the finish line. I thought this would be a lot slower than the initial sandcut route, mainly because of how wide you go, but astonishingly, I was still able to get a time faster than Luke's world record. Every piece of the puzzle had fallen into place. I had just begun my summer break as well, so time wasn't an issue. But being able to reproduce these inputs legitimately on a real console is a totally different ballgame than on Dolphin Emulator. On my Wii, I don't have save states, and I can't slow the game down. I've been using Dolphin at 4K HD, but my console is a measly 480p. I modified my successful wall clip ghost to make it stay at the setup spot for about 1 minute, exported the ghost, and imported it into my Wii to race as an alignment ghost, hopefully increasing my chances of success. I figured if I can't align with the pole directly, I can just align with this instead. This isn't cheating, by the way. In fact, most world records these days are set racing against ghosts. It's a feature of the game, and TASD alignment ghosts have been used for years to help set world records. I settled onto my trusty couch and prepared for the absolute slog of what was to come. The question wasn't if I could break the record, it was how many times would I break myself trying. 21.212. Somehow, on my first ever successful super slide attempt, I controlled my nerves and beat the world record by 0.378, the biggest ever time cut for a Luigi Circuit world record. And not only that, but this marks the first time that a super slide has been used in a Mario Kart Wii world record. 17 years after the game's release, Luigi Circuit finally has a non-Taz glitch category. And for the icing on the cake, my run even beat the no-glitch flap Taz, so it definitely can't be beaten without super sliding. History made at last. My joystick was pretty worn out, in fact I was planning on buying a new one the very next day, so I'm surprised that my flap entry inputs were perfect. I had about 90 EV when entering, giving me a max speed entry, and the first turn was pretty good. My turn at the highest part of the track was a bit wide initially, but I got a tight exit which made up for it. The downhill section could have been a bit faster with some better joystick alternations, but my thumb was way too sweaty to control that. The hop into the banked final turn was perfect, and the last line was slightly wide, but by this point it didn't matter. The world record was in the bag. And here's a cool graph of the statistics I kept track of during my grind. A sub 20 flap is humanly possible if someone is brave enough to go for the sand shortcut through the pipes, so good luck to whoever decides to grind for that. There's a link to the alignment ghost I made in the description. I believe that the super slide has human potential waiting to be used on other tracks such as N64 Mario Raceway, so I can't wait to see what the future holds. I hope this video shed some light on the process of discovering shortcuts and glitches. It's a lucky combination of brainstorming, accidental discoveries, and experimentation. At the start of the video, I asked the question, how do you beat the world record on a basic track where the driving is already as clean as possible? It took a lot of understanding of game mechanics to get to the answer, and some inspiration from other discoveries, but we really did just need more speed. Thank you, Super Slide, and thank you for watching.